1 rep max is the maximum weight that you can lift at one time. So that's your maximum strength, 1 rep max. And this is something we use to describe intensity of exercise. So if you're a fairly fit individual, you're not particularly prone to injury, you could be operating at an intensity of 60 to 80% 1 rep max. So if your maximum weight that you can lift is, let's say, 10 pounds, then you could be operating between 6 to 8 pounds for your starting lifts. But if you are someone who's frail, prone to injury, is recovering from injury, has had injuries in the past, you could definitely reduce the intensity. You could go for 40% or 50% of your 1 rep max. And this would be a way of shielding yourself from injury. Research shows that as long as total volume is equated, the amount of muscle you grow is similar regardless of intensity and regardless of how heavy it is. And we will get to volume in a second. In fact, volume is the next definition that we need to look at. So volume is the total amount of work that you've done, which is mathematically the number of reps multiplied by the number of sets multiplied by the weight that you're pushing. That's the total volume of work. And this leans into the next definition, which is what's progressive overload. This means gradually increasing your training demand and volume over time. And I'll give you some examples of progressive overload later in the talk. What is supersets? Okay, so before I discuss supersets, you know what? I should discuss something called recovery. I'm going to move to recovery real quick. So what's recovery? Remember, to grow muscles, you need to give your muscles adequate time to recover as well. And there are some basic rules around that. When you do a set of exercise, you should rest for about 1.5 to 3 minutes between sets. That's one rule. When you do a full muscle group, let's say upper body push, upper body pull, core or lower legs, let's say you do 3 sets or maybe 5 sets of that exercise, then you should rest that muscle group for at least 48 hours to give it adequate rest. And there are some other things which are also important for rest. Adequate sleep, adequate nutrition, and from a nutrition point of view for recovery is mostly an anti-inflammatory diet which contains antioxidants. So all those colorful compounds you find in fruits, vegetables, spices, etc. With hydration, these are what will give you optimal recovery and of course optimal sleep as well. So talking about recovery, now we get back to supersets. So what is a superset? It's essentially a way of just saving time on the exercise program. So if you are on one machine, let's say you're doing preacher curls for biceps. Ideally, what you should do is you should do a set and then you would rest for 1.5 to 3 minutes and then you would do your next set and then you would rest again for 1.5 to 3 minutes.